We're going to start at this light. This right here is a marker, blinker, and a flasher. It's properly mounted and secured. Our nuts and bolts are present and tight. It's not cracked, bent, or broke, and it's amber in color. After that, we'll move to our mirror. The mirror is properly mounted and secured. All of our nuts and bolts are present and tight. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and the glass is clean. From the mirror, we want to go to the door. We want to make sure that the door will open and close and stay closed. Then we're going to open the door back up. We're going to check and make sure that the hinges are secure and that the door is not loose. And then we're going to check our door seals. It has an inner and an outer seal. The reason for the double seal is because if we have an exhaust leak, if these seals are bad, the exhaust is going to get up into the truck, and that's not going to work out so well for us. The next thing that we want to do, we want to make sure that the door is properly mounted and secured. All of our nuts and bolts are present and tight. Nothing is cracked, bent, or broken. The hinges are secure. We also want to make sure that our seals do not have any abrasions, any bubbles, cuts, or dry rot. On the door itself, we want to make sure that the window rolls up and down and that the window seal is intact. No abrasions, bubbles, cuts, or dry rot, and no leaks on the door or the window seal. From the door, we're going to move to our steps. We have several steps on the truck. The ones are going into the cab itself, and then we have the steps on the back of the tractor itself and the catwalk. We want to make sure that all of these are properly mounted and secured. All of our nuts and bolts are present and tight. None of these are cracked, bent, or broken. And also, these are free of ice, snow, and debris. That's anything that'll cause you to slip and get injured. Right up underneath here is our battery compartment. We just want to make sure that everything is secure in our battery compartment and our batteries are not leaking. As we move back, we're going to come to our fuel tank. This is our fuel tank. We have a fuel tank, we have a cap, and we have a strap. And the strap must have a rubber vibration dampener between the metal strap and the aluminum tank to keep the strap from rubbing a hole in the tank. The cap must be hand tight. The seal inside the cap must not be leaking, and the overall system must not be leaking. Now we're going to move farther back to the back. As we get back to the back, usually when I come to this area where the fairing is, I want to talk about how much spacing is required between the tractor and the trailer. We need to have 3 feet between the back of the tractor and the front of the trailer. This keeps us from hitting our fairings against the side of the trailer whenever we're in a hard maneuver and the tractor is turned at a 90-degree angle or more. So that's 3 feet between the tractor and the trailer. Also, we want to make sure that when we are coupled, we have no gap between our skid plate and our apron. There should be 0 spacing there. And between the mud flap and the landing gear, we want to make sure that we have 3 feet there as well. What we call this is 303. From there, we're going to move inside to the back of the tractor. When we move to the inside, we're going to start up on the back of the tractor itself. If your tractor has reflectors mounted on the back of it, you must talk about these reflectors. They're properly mounted and secured. They're held together with adhesive, so there's no nuts and bolts. The reflector is clear in color. Next, we'll talk about our exhaust system. We want to make sure that it's properly mounted and secured. Nothing is cracked, bent, or broken. I have no soot trails showing on my exhaust system. The exhaust system itself doesn't make a loud noise and it doesn't leak. From the exhaust system, we will talk about our utility or our working lights. We have 2 of them on the back of this tractor. They're both properly mounted and secured. All of your nuts and bolts are present and tight. Nothing is cracked, bent, or broken, and those lights are clear in color. From the lights, we're going to go ahead and move into and talk about our air and our electric. The air lines are properly mounted and secured. They have no abrasions, bubbles, cuts, or dry rot on the air lines. Also on the glad hand itself, we want to make sure that all of our nuts and bolts are present and tight. We want to make sure that the seal is intact, that it's not cut or frayed or torn. We also want to make sure down inside of the glad hand that there is no debris inside there. Next thing that we want to talk about is our electrical. The electrical, we have to check both ends. We disconnect from the back of the tractor. We're going to look up inside. We have 7 holes. Make sure that none of the female connectors in there are collapsed and that they are free of corrosion and debris. Next, we want to lift up our gated door. We want to make sure that we have 7 pins. Each pin is made up of 2 halves. We want to make sure we have both of our halves for each pin and that the pins are free of corrosion. And then we can go ahead and hook our electrical back up. We line up the tab that's on the top with the groove that's on the top. Push it all the way in so that this locking tab and that locking tab overlap each other so that it cannot disconnect when you're in a hard turn. We would check this end of the electrical connector for exactly the same. We would make sure all 7 of our holes, none of the female connectors are collapsed, and they are all free of corrosion as well. And then we'll store this back up here in the retainer. Our electrical line itself, we want to make sure that it has no cracked insulation, no bare wires, and no tape. You cannot repair electrical wiring on a truck with tape. It must be a proper fix. This right here is what we would consider to be an abrasion. It hasn't rubbed far enough where it has actually penetrated the insulation on the outside, but eventually it will. Next, we're going to move to the frame of the tractor itself. The frame should be all properly, we're going to talk about the frame and the cross members at the same time. Frame and the cross members are all properly mounted and secured. All of our nuts and bolts are present and tight. Nothing appears to be cracked, bent, or broken. Now with this frame, you cannot drill any holes in this frame, and you cannot